video, I'm going to go through with lightning speed in generality, how to syntax something like you see on your screen here, and then give you some ideas on how to correspond back using correct sentence structure, communication, PARSE, syntax, grammar on your document, contract, postal vessel, court, venue. Now it's going to be very fast, so it'll probably take repeated watchings, and you beginners out there may feel a little lost, but I will give you a caveat emptor. Do not use this. Do not copy and paste. I advise you against it. Not a good idea. Always a good idea to know what it is you're doing rather than just parrot what someone else says or copy what someone else writes and then think that it's going to work for you. Because guess what? You know the word author? That means that whoever authored a document is the authority of that document. If you didn't author it, you're not the authority. So if you plagiarize something, copy and paste something, you're not the author, so therefore you don't really have the jurisdiction, and it probably is not going to turn out the way that you think it will. This is a warning. This is a sample letter of what someone might see from an entity like this. Now what I've done is to take this part of this letter and copy and paste it into a Word document. This is the exact same text with a few updates, okay? I have entered some information just to make it more readable for the ease of the communication. And also, you see this part, which is going to come in handy. It's going to be important to look at this later. You see in brackets here, it says amount due immediately. You can juxtapose that or correlate that with the actual box, physical box that's on the paper that I showed you. This right here. Amount due immediately. You see that? That's what that represents. Now, I'm not going to go through and do this in real time, so to speak. I've already done it, and I'm going to show it to you, and I'm going to go through and explain it. Okay? So we have up here what you will see as the letter is addressed to someone named Donnie Duck, which is an adjective pronoun. 666 Get 6 Street, more adjectives and pronoun. Atlantis, which is standalone pronoun because of the break and it continues the evidence of the comma. Tartaria, which is an adjective, coloring 60606 into a pronoun. For those of you out there who think that numbers don't need to be syntaxed and numbers don't need to be positioned with position and lodials, guess what? You're wrong. Because if you go by the logical rule that facts must be correctly positioned on paper, if it's a fact, it needs to have a position lodial phrase positioning it. So if you put a number on a page without using a position lodial phrase in front of it, it's not a fact, is it? So now correlate that to the fiction, which is what we're looking at here. The number has not been positioned, so therefore we don't know what it is. Anything else would be an assumption. So therefore it would be syntax just like anything else. Rule 1, rule equal. So then we have notice. And then this is the number or the letter number of the notice, LT11C. And then the notice date is next lifetime. So those are all, of course, adjective pronoun scenarios. And then it says notice of intent to levy and your right to a hearing. So notice in this context is a pronoun, and nothing can follow a pronoun except for a break and a continuance of the evidence, or, as in this case, an adverb. Of is an adverb, modifying intent into a verb. To is a future tense adverb, modifying levy into a verb, followed by a conjunction, which is neutral, Conjunctions do not modify anything, nor are they modified by anything. And then you have your, which is an adverb, modifying right into an adjective, which is coloring to into a future tense pronoun. And again, nothing can follow a pronoun except for, you know the rest. Adverb A, modifying hearing into a dangling participle verb. Now you see this conjunction here. You see this 2, 0, 1 scenario. What's actually happening here is conjunctions in the fiction serve as, we can think of them as bridges, neutral bridges between adverbs or verbs or adjectives or pronouns or any of the 5 syntax scenarios, which is the case here. This conjunction is serving as a bridge between this 1-2 scenario and this 1-3-4 scenario. So there you go. Now we have the salutation. To is a standalone pronoun. In the future tense. And then we have adjective pronoun Don Duck. Now notice, up here it says Donnie Duck. And down here it says Don Duck. And of course it's all capped. This is what the fiction will do. Many, many times you will see different versions of a name on an envelope. And that will be different than what is inside the envelope. Like it might even say Mr. Duck. Or Mr. D, period, space, Duck. They'll use different variations of a name. Anything but one's full correct name. Much less one's full correct punctuated name. As also you can see, I have put in highlighted yellow all the particles of negation in this scenario. I messed one up here because time is a particle of negation. Folks, you can certify, verify any of the stuff that I do here just by looking it up in an etymology dictionary and following the etymological rules that I've shared with you in my PARSE playlist and also syntax playlist on how to credential whether a word is tangible contract or non-tangible contract, or how to credential a particle of negation. Now I must also state here that the only time that a particle of negation affects the tangibility or non-tangibility of the word is with the particle of negation suffix ly, which literally deadens the tangibility of a word. As of last century, we have not received your overdue tax after sending several notices to you. You must pay your balance by next lifetime, or we may levy your property. If you do not make your payment now, we will consider your non-compliance an act of choice, and you could face a levy. And then in the box they have the amount due immediately, and then it says payment must be received by next lifetime. Just at a cursory glance, everything is put in past tense or future tense if you notice this. In the future, you're going to be paying. In the past, you haven't paid yet, right? So it says you must pay your balance by next lifetime, or we may levy. Now, they're not saying we will levy, are they? No. However, they will consider non-compliance an act of choice, as opposed to what? An inactive choice? What the hell does that mean? My point being is, they could have said, we will levy your property. But they're not saying that. They're saying they may. So it's a maybe. It's a maybe. Because, quite frankly, they could levy your property whether you pay or you don't pay. They got the bigger guns and clubs, folks. So let's begin with the syntax. As is a pronoun. And we all know nothing can yada yada yada. And then we have of, adverb. That is modifying last into an adjective. And century is being colored into a pronoun by the adjective last. Just a quick note, those of you out there paying attention. Tangible contract words cannot be adverbs. Non-tangible contract words cannot be adjectives. So if we're looking specifically at ones and threes, that means that of is non-tangible. That means that last is tangible. Adjectives will always be tangible. Adverbs will always be non-tangible. Pronouns, fors, and verbs, twos, can be either tangible or non-tangible. We is an adverb modifying have to a verb. Not is an adverb modifying received into a verb in the past tense. Your is an adverb modifying overdue into an adjective, which is coloring text into a pronoun. After is an adverb in the past tense modifying sending into an adjective, which is coloring several into an adjective. And in notices is a pronoun being modified by several. To is future tense adverb. You is a dangling participle verb. Verbs in the fiction, in this context of syntax, cannot exist unless they are preceded and modified by an adverb. Hence, you have the 5 syntax scenarios. You have the 1-2, 4-1-2, 3-4, 1-3-4, 4-1-3-4, and then you have a little bonus scenario that David-WYNN didn't really count among those scenarios, so I call it a bonus scenario, which is the standalone pronoun, the 4. You is an adverb modifying must into an adjective. Pay is a pronoun being colored by must. Your is an adverb modifying balance into an adjective, which is coloring by into a pronoun. Next is an adverb modifying lifetime into a verb. Or is that neutral conjunction. We is an adverb modifying may into an adjective, which is coloring levy into a pronoun. Now this conjunction or, what's going on here? What is it a bridge between? Well, it's a bridge between a 1-2 syntax scenario and another 1-3-4 syntax scenario. Now you look here very closely, people, please. You see the word levy, then you see a space, then you see a parenthesis, then you see the word seize, then you see another parenthesis, and then you see a space. So basically these two spaces on either side of these parentheses represent a excessive spacing, i.e. a break in the continuance of the evidence. So therefore, it basically looks like this. There's nothing after levy because there's a break in the continuance of the evidence. So therefore, this syntax scenario ends here, this 1-3-4, and then a new one starts here, with your as an adverb modifying property into a dangling participle verb. Now this word seize, it's standing by itself, so it would be a pronoun, but it's not on the paper. It's in a different contract. It's the 4-corner rule. So it wouldn't be necessary to syntax that. If is a pronoun followed by you, which is an adverb, modifying do into a verb. Not is an adverb modifying make into a verb. Your is an adverb modifying payment into an adjective. Now is being colored into a pronoun by the preceding adjective, breaking the continuance of the evidence with the comma here. We start another syntax scenario. We, which is an adverb, modifying will into an adjective in the future tense, considers being colored into a pronoun, followed by adverb your, which is modifying noncompliance into a verb. And is an adverb modifying active into an adjective, which is coloring choice into a pronoun. Now we have another conjunction, which is a zero. Is not modified by anything, does not modify anything. So we have the 1, 3, 4 syntax scenario, and the conjunction is providing a bridge between that syntax scenario and the next syntax scenario, which is also a 1, 3, 4. You is an adverb modifying could into a future tense adjective, which is coloring face into a pronoun. A is an adverb modifying levy into a dangling participle verb. And then we have the amount due immediately in this box. Again, the four-corner rule. It's not on the page. Why do they always do this? Why do they always put that part in a box? Why wouldn't they just leave it on the paper? I will leave that to you to figure out on your own. Of course, I would be more than happy to teach you all these mechanics, but first, you must be able to certify to me that you at least have a rudimentary grasp of this grammar, and I would have to be able to certify that with my own eyes. And if you can do that, if you can prove to me that you have closure on this grammar and you can do what I just did here and explain it, I'd be more than happy to teach you document, contract, postal, vessel, court, venue mechanics. 12B7 through 12B1, all those types of things. The flag mechanics, grammar mechanics, postal mechanics, banking mechanics, shipping, all that stuff. So then the last sentence is payment must be received by next lifetime. Payment is, and I'll go into tangibility and non-tangibility in this last sentence. Payment is a tangible contract adjective, coloring must into a tangible contract adjective. B is tangible contract adjective, coloring received into past tense tangible contract adjective, which is coloring by into non-tangible contract pronoun, followed by non-tangible contract next, which is an adverb, modifying tangible contract lifetime into a dangling participle verb. And again, time is a particle of negation, and I've credentialed all the particles of negation on this document. So there you go. Hopefully I've covered everything there, and now we will quickly go into some of the correct sentence structure that you could offer in your own correct sentence structure, communication, parse, syntax, grammar, document, contract, postal, vessel, court, venue, if you were looking at a scenario like this. Here are some sentences that you may include in a hypothetical document that I am sharing with you. So first and foremost would be this sentence. For me, personally, this is what I would put in there. And of course, I'm writing it from this individual's perspective, because this is knowledge cultivation purposes. So the first claim, as you can see, I have put a full colon followed by a tilde, 0, 1, and then a short dash. The closure on that is this full colon represents for the. This tilde represents location. It means it's a location. What's the location? Number 1. Oh, we can see it's a list has started. So this is item 1. The short dash, incorrect sentence structure, communication, parse, syntax, grammar in my dictionary means that what precedes the dash is related to what comes after the dash. Meaning, this is claim number 1. So this first claim states, for the claimant's sensation of the cognition is with the claim of the facts, with the correct sentence structure, communication, parse, syntax, grammar knowledge by the claimant, Donald Duck. Backwards, that would be for the claimant, Donald Duck, of the correct sentence structure, communication, parse, syntax, grammar knowledge, is with the facts of the claim with the cognition by the claimant's sensation. What that's saying is that Donald Duck's facts, his claim of the facts, come from correct sentence structure knowledge, which has been formulated by his cognition of his 5 senses, what he senses as he navigates through the sea of space. what comes into his port of sensation. So that's the closure on where his facts come from. So now that we've given closure to that, Donald can now make the next sentence for the claimant's knowledge of the facts. Because now we know where the knowledge came from. A couple other things. If you're going to use an abbreviation, it's a good idea to give closure to that abbreviation. And if this is a hypothetical correct sentence structure document, contract, postal vessel, court, venue, then the closure to that abbreviation would definitely come underneath the 1 by 1.9 flag, where it would be written out correct sentence structure, communication, parse, syntax, grammar, / and then that abbreviation CSS CPSG hyphen flag of this, so on and so forth. So that's where that would be. Also, this is where the bottom line comes in. When you bottom line something such as compound facts or names or titles or abbreviations, that means that whatever is on that ledge or that mechanic is to be taken as a whole. So if you were to syntax this, for would be a 5, the would be a 6, and claimant's sensation would be a 7. And then if you were to syntax, for example, this last part, by would be a 5, the would be a 6, claimant would be a 7, comma, and then Donald, :space, duck, which is underlined, bottom lined, would be a 7. So it's 5, 6, 7, comma, space, 7. Because in correct sentence structure, commas serve to group facts together. So now the next claim, claim 2. For the claimant's knowledge of the facts is with the claim of the trespass, so it's a trespass claim, with the perpetration of the Internal Revenue Service / IRS. I've given closure to the abbreviation IRS, and I've sicked it and underlined it. Why? Because internal has a particle of negation in it, and in correct sentence structure we don't use particles of negation with our facts normally. But because I don't really have jurisdiction over the name Internal Revenue Service, I have to use it as is. So when you put the sick there, it means that you know it's not correct, but you're using it for ease of communication, because you want to know you want them to know exactly who you are talking about. So that's why I've done that, and you'll see I do that with other words as well. With the IRS letter, and then comma space, and then I give the letter number there. If you remember, if you scroll back to the beginning, that letter number was on the page of the IRS letter date. And the date is the next lifetime. That's why I put a tilde on there. A little bit of cheekiness for you there. Now, the reason why I've sicked next hyphen lifetime and those other things, not because the word, for example, letter hyphen date has a particle negation in it, but it's a compound fact. IRS letter date is a compound fact, and IRS has a particle negation in it. So you sick the whole thing because it is a compound fact. With the fictitious conveyance of the grammar with the audit by the claimant and auditor, Donald Duck. So backwards that would be, for the claimant and auditor, Donald Duck, of the audit is with the grammar of the fictitious conveyance with the IRS letter date, next lifetime, of the IRS letter LT11C, with the Internal Revenue Service of the perpetration with the trespass of the claim with the facts by the claimant's knowledge. So what I basically said there is the IRS is perpetrating a trespass, and it's based in this letter LT11C with the date of the next lifetime. And it's a fictitious conveyance of grammar, and Donald Duck is auditing it. Okay? Remember, the claimant must always be in command of the claim. And lastly, we give solutions. We have a problem. Now we have to give a solution. So the solution is in Claim 3. For the claim of the claimant's solutions is Now, some people might say, why you use is? It sounds like it should be are. No. The plurality or singularity of a verb is credentialed by the plurality or singularity of the fact in the cause position. For being the cause positional, claim is the fact in the cause position, and claim is singular. So therefore, the verb is singular. Is. With the IRS performance or with the IRS share, see, folks, to err is human. I mean, I can go through and there will be mistakes, and you just saw one, so stop and correct. So is with the IRS performance or with the IRS share. So or is a conjunction and in correct sentence structure, conjunctions serve as bridges between either facts or position loadial fact phrases. So in this sense, it is a bridge between these two position loadial fact phrases with the IRS performance or with the IRS share. And it is a choice. It can either be a performance or a share. So what are the options here? Of a correct sentence structure contract, or of an IRS quo rento, or of the IRS vacation, with the balance of the honor and the grace, with the position of the peace and neutrality, with the maintenance of the Rule 1 and Rule Equal, with the tender by this claimant and auditor and solver, Donald Duck. Backwards, for this claimant and auditor and solver, Donald Duck, of the tender is with the Rule 1 and Rule Equal, of the maintenance, with the peace and neutrality of the position, with the honor and grace of the balance, with the IRS vacation, or with an IRS quo rento, or with a correct sentence structure, communication, PARSE, syntax, grammar, contract, of the IRS share, or of the IRS performance, with the claimant solutions by the claim. So you see, I didn't put for the claimant's knowledge up here, because we've already done that. This has already been determined that this is the knowledge comes from the claimant's sensation of the cognition. The facts come from the knowledge. So it's not necessary to do that here for ease of communication. So we just put for the claim. So what I'm saying here is I'm giving them a choice. They can either perform on this, which would be the vacation, or they can share a correct sentence structure contract with Donald Duck's name on it and the IRS name on it, so that they can prove that they have a correct sentence structure contract, which they don't, or an IRS quo rento, which would show that they have the authority to do what they're doing in correct sentence structure, which they don't, or they can go on vacation, which means they will vacate the premises, vacate the case, the perpetual case, the corporation case, and that's it. And you won't hear from them again. Well, Donald Duck won't hear from them again. And that's basically how it works. Now, this is a very brief, generalized overlook of the grammatical portion of something like this. There are lots of other stuff that goes into this. Lots of other mechanics. This is just a look at the grammar portion of it. Again, I caution you, do not copy and paste this stuff. Do not use it, because it most likely will not have the results that you think it will if you don't know what it is you're doing. One last thing I must mention. Everything on this page that you see, every word, every symbol, every punctuation, everything must have closure in your correct sentence structure, communication, PARSE, syntax, grammar dictionary, which you would include with your document, contract, postal vessel, court, venue. You must give closure to everything. And what I normally do is, after I write a correct sentence structure, I will translate each claim into plain simple English, like I just did verbally for you, but I would put it in brackets or in italics, because I don't want to be misunderstood. And I'm sure Donald Duck doesn't want to be misunderstood either. Those folks out there who try and make this complicated and don't translate it, is the reason they do that, I'd have to guess, is probably because they don't have closure on the grammar. Which, it's always a good idea to have closure on the grammar and to be able to prove it at every chance, every opportunity that you have. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it helped you. And if you'd like to see more content like this, let me know in the comments field. Que sera, sera.